First contact. The gentle hum of the Zarsian ship's engines provided a soothing backdrop as chief cultural observer Lyra stared at the holographic display before her. The small blue planet, third from its sun, had captured her attention for the past 3 Earth months. Her mission was simple: observe and document the behaviors of the dominant species without detection. Yet, as the planet's northern hemisphere tilted away from its star, she noticed something peculiar happening. Cities began to sparkle with countless tiny lights. Structures appeared adorned with red and green decorations. And most intriguingly, the humans' emotional patterns showed significant spikes in both joy and stress, a paradox that fascinated her. Secondary observer Theo, are you seeing these readings? Lyra's translucent fingers danced across the control panel, enhancing the neural activity scans of a small town in what the humans called Minnesota. Theo Vec'tor, her longtime research partner and friend, floated over to her station. Unlike Lyra's crystalline form, Theo's species resembled what humans might call living smoke, a swirling mass of dark matter that could take various shapes at will. Fascinating, he whispered, his voice like wind through caves. Their serotonin levels are elevated, yet cortisol is also increasing. I've never seen such a combination in any other species we've studied. Permission to initiate closer observation. Lyra's request was directed at their ship's artificial intelligence, Aria, which maintained their strict non-interference protocols. After a moment of processing, Aria's response appeared as scrolling text across their main viewport: permission granted with conditions. Maintain complete invisibility. No direct contact. Maximum observation period, 30 Earth days. Lyra felt her crystalline structure vibrate with excitement, her species equivalent of a human smile. She had already selected their first observation subject, Sarah Chen, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher who lived alone in a small house on the outskirts of Pine Grove, Minnesota. Sarah's neural patterns were particularly intriguing. Despite living alone, she exhibited some of the strongest emotional responses to the changing season. Through their sophisticated monitoring equipment, Lyra and Theo had watched her transform her modest home with strings of lights, garlands, and something called a Christmas tree, an actual organic plant brought indoors and decorated with shining ornaments. I don't understand, Theo mused, his smoky form condensing into something resembling a human's contemplative pose. Why bring a dying plant into one's dwelling? And why adorn it with artificial illumination? Perhaps it's symbolic, Lyra suggested, adjusting their cloaking field as they descended closer to Sarah's house. Humans seem to find meaning in the most unexpected places. As they watched, Sarah was in her kitchen, surrounded by what their scans identified as baking ingredients. The air was filled with the scent of something their chemical analyzers identified as cinnamon and vanilla. She was speaking to someone through her communication device, her voice carrying a mix of emotions their systems struggled to categorize. "Mom, I know it's different this year," Sarah said, wiping flour from her cheek. "But I really think staying here is the right choice. The school's having its holiday concert, and my students need me. Besides..." She paused, and their scanners detected a slight increase in her heart rate. "Besides, it's been 3 years. I need to create my own traditions now." Lyra and Theo exchanged the equivalent of glances in their respective forms. They had accessed enough of Earth's information networks to know that humans placed great importance on family units, particularly during this Christmas season. Yet here was Sarah, choosing to remain separated from hers. The next day brought new insights as they followed Sarah to Pine Grove Elementary School. The building was alive with activity, small humans racing through hallways decorated with paper snowflakes and something their database identified as reindeer, though the anatomical accuracy of these representations was questionable at best. "Miss Chen. Miss Chen." A small human female, approximately 7 Earth years old, came running up to Sarah. Their scanners identified her as Maya Rodriguez. "Did you see what we did to the music room? We made it look like the North Pole." Sarah's face displayed the expression humans called a smile, though their scanners detected a complex mixture of emotions beneath it. "I can't wait to see it, Maya. Are you ready for your solo in the concert?" The child's enthusiasm triggered a cascade of neural responses that Lyra found fascinating. "You bet. My mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and my little brother are all coming. The whole family." Something flickered across Sarah's face, too quick for Maya to notice, but the alien sensors captured it perfectly. Pain. Longing. Yet it was immediately replaced by genuine joy for her students' happiness. As they continued their observation, Lyra and Theo discovered that Sarah wasn't the only one experiencing complex emotions during this season. Through their advanced scanning technology, they began mapping the intricate web of human connections throughout Pine Grove. There was Mr. Jenkins, the elderly bookstore owner who kept his shop open late every night, providing a warm haven for last-minute shoppers and lonely souls seeking company. Their scans showed he had lost his wife 2 years ago, yet he maintained what humans called Christmas spirit with remarkable resilience. They observed Maria Santos, a nurse working night shifts at Pine Grove General Hospital, coordinating with other staff members to ensure patients wouldn't feel alone during the holidays. Their emotional readings showed exhaustion mixed with determination and compassion. And then there was Tom Parker, the local coffee shop owner, who had been secretly paying for customers' orders when he noticed they were counting change or looking at prices too long. His neural patterns showed an interesting mixture of embarrassment when anyone tried to thank him and genuine pleasure in the act of giving. One evening, as Sarah sat grading papers at her desk, Lyra noticed something unusual in the atmospheric readings around their ship. "Theo, are you seeing this?" She adjusted their sensors. The crystalline structures in the air, they're frozen water molecules. "Snow," Theo confirmed, his smoky form swirling with interest. According to Earth data, it's a significant part of their winter celebrations, particularly in this region. They watched as Sarah noticed the first flakes falling outside her classroom window. The neural spike in her brain was immediate and intense. She rushed to the window, pressing her hand against the glass, and for a moment, their sensors detected something unprecedented, a perfect harmony between her elevated serotonin and dopamine levels. That evening, as the snow continued to fall, Sarah took a walk through her neighborhood. Lyra and Theo followed at a safe distance, their ship completely invisible in the darkening sky. The houses were illuminated with thousands of tiny lights, creating a scene that even their alien perspectives could appreciate as beautiful. Sarah stopped at the small town square, where a massive Christmas tree stood covered in lights and decorations. Around its base, members of the community had placed wrapped packages, gifts for families who couldn't afford their own this year, according to the sign. As they observed Sarah adding her own contribution to the pile, Lyra made a notation in their research log: "Humans appear to use this season as a catalyst for generating and sharing positive emotions, particularly through the act of giving. The tradition seems to serve as a social bonding mechanism that transcends individual family units to strengthen the larger community structure." Back in her classroom the next day, Sarah was helping her students create what they called Christmas cards for a local retirement home. The neural patterns of the children showed remarkable spikes in empathy and joy as they worked, especially when Sarah explained how their cards would bring happiness to people they had never met. The concept of giving without expectation of return seems central to this celebration, Theo noted, his form shifting thoughtfully. It appears to be a sophisticated social mechanism for building community cohesion. Lyra was about to respond when their sensors detected an anomaly. Sarah had just received a message on her communication device that caused a sudden surge of stress hormones. Her hands trembled slightly as she read it. "Change of plans, honey," the message from her mother read. "Your father and I decided to join that cruise we were talking about. We know you understand. Maybe we can do Christmas in January." The emotional impact was immediate and complex. Their sensors recorded waves of disappointment, anger, and sadness, yet Sarah maintained her composed exterior for her students. It was a remarkable display of emotional control that fascinated both alien observers. That evening, as Sarah sat alone in her living room, staring at her beautifully decorated Christmas tree, Lyra and Theo recorded something unexpected. Despite her solitude and the recent disappointment, Sarah's neural patterns began to shift. As she looked at the handmade ornaments her students had given her, the cards they'd made for the retirement home, and thought about the gift she'd left under the community tree, her brain chemistry began to balance itself. "I think," Lyra said slowly, making careful notes in their research log, "we're witnessing something more than just a holiday tradition. This Christmas appears to be a sophisticated social mechanism for processing both positive and negative emotions within a supportive community framework." As the first part of their observation period drew to a close, they watched Sarah make a decision. She picked up her communication device and began sending messages, to Mr. Jenkins, to Maria from the hospital, to Tom from the coffee shop, and to others they had observed who might be alone for the holiday. "Christmas Eve dinner at my place," she wrote. "Nothing fancy. Just good company. Because sometimes the family you need is the one you choose." The neural patterns that accompanied this action were some of the most fascinating they'd recorded yet, a complex mixture of determination, hope, and something their sensors couldn't quite categorize. Perhaps, Lyra thought, that was the thing humans called Christmas spirit. As they prepared their initial report for their home world, both aliens knew they had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding this peculiar human celebration. But one thing was becoming clear: there was something about this season that brought out both the vulnerability and the strength of the human spirit in ways they had never observed before. And as the snow continued to fall over Pine Grove, creating a blanket of white that reflected all those Christmas lights, they couldn't help but feel they were witnessing something that transcended their scientific mission. Something that, perhaps, even their advanced civilization could learn from. Little did they know, their observations were about to become far more intimate than their protocols allowed, as events in Pine Grove were about to take an unexpected turn that would challenge everything they thought they knew about human connections, holiday traditions, and the true meaning of Christmas. Unexpected interference. The morning before Christmas Eve brought an unexpected complication to Lyra and Theo's careful observation mission. Their ship sensors detected an anomalous energy signature approaching Earth's atmosphere, one they recognized immediately as belonging to their own species' technology. "Unregistered vessel approaching on Vec'tor 227, Aria announced, displaying a holographic warning. Identification markers matched the stolen research vessel from the Centauri incident. Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. The Neo-Separatists. Here. The Neo-Separatists were a radical faction that believed advanced civilizations should actively interfere with developing worlds, guiding their evolution rather than merely observing them. They must have followed our research patterns. Theo's smoky form coalesced into a more concentrated mass, his species' equivalent of tension. "We need to notify Central Command." But before they could send their emergency signal, their sensors detected something even more alarming. The Neo-Separatist vessel was deploying what appeared to be atmospheric processors, devices capable of manipulating weather patterns on a massive scale. "They're targeting the upper atmosphere above Pine Grove," Lyra analyzed the data streams rapidly. "Temperature modifications, they're going to create a severe storm system." Through their monitoring equipment, they could already see the effects beginning. The gentle snow that had been falling over Pine Grove was beginning to intensify. Wind speeds were increasing dramatically, and temperature readings were plummeting far below normal parameters. In Sarah's classroom, the children were practicing their holiday concert one last time before tomorrow's performance. Through the windows, they could see the storm approaching, far more quickly than any natural weather system should move. "Miss Chen." Maya's voice trembled slightly as she looked out at the darkening sky. "Is it supposed to snow this much?" Sarah moved to the window, her face showing concern that their sensors easily detected. The school's principal's voice came over the intercom system. "Due to rapidly deteriorating weather conditions, we will be initiating early dismissal procedures." Please ensure all students are properly equipped for severe weather and contacted their parents for immediate pickup. The next few hours were chaos by human standards, though Lyra and Theo observed it all with increasing concern. Parents arrived in various vehicles to collect their children, fighting against wind and snow that was already accumulating at an alarming rate. Their sensors detected numerous communications across emergency service channels as Pine Grove's infrastructure struggled to cope with the sudden storm. "We have to do something," Lyra declared, watching as Sarah helped the last of her students into their parents' vehicles. "This interference goes against everything we stand for. The non-interference protocols." Theo began, but Lyra cut him off. "Were designed to prevent us from harming developing civilizations. By allowing the Neo-Separatists to continue, we become complicit in their interference." As they debated, Sarah was one of the last to leave the school. Their sensors showed that the temperature had dropped to dangerous levels, and the wind was now strong enough to make driving hazardous. But Sarah had one more stop to make, the retirement home where her students' Christmas cards were to be delivered. "The Neo-Separatists don't understand what they're disrupting," Lyra observed, watching Sarah carefully navigate her vehicle through the worsening storm. "These holiday traditions, they're not just meaningless customs. They're vital social bonds that hold this community together." At the retirement home, they observed as Sarah rushed inside with the box of cards, her face red from the bitter cold. The elderly residents were gathered in the common room, many looking worried about the storm, but their neural patterns showed marked improvement when Sarah began distributing the handmade cards from her students. "Look at these emotional readings," Theo noted, his form swirling with interest. "The simple act of receiving these cards is generating significant positive responses in their brain chemistry." Meanwhile, their sensors detected the Neo-Separatist ship moving to Phase 2 of their plan. They were now targeting Pine Grove's power grid, using their advanced technology to create strategic overloads that would leave the town without electricity during the storm. "They're trying to force the humans to accept help from an advanced civilization," Lyra realized. "They're going to wait until the situation becomes desperate, then reveal themselves as saviors." As if on cue, the lights in the retirement home flickered and went out. Their sensors detected similar power failures spreading across town like a wave. In the darkness, they could hear the elderly residents murmuring with fear, but then something unexpected happened. Sarah, illuminated only by the emergency lights, began to sing. "Silent night, holy night." Her voice was joined by others, trembling at first, then growing stronger. Through their emotional sensors, Lyra and Theo detected something remarkable. The simple act of singing together was creating a pattern of shared neural responses that seemed to combat the fear and uncertainty. "We need to make a decision," Theo said, his form shifting anxiously. "The storm is getting worse. At this rate, the human celebration will be completely disrupted. Many could be in danger." Lyra's crystalline form pulsed with determination. "Arya, initiate emergency protocol override. Authorization Lyra Cayenne, Chief Cultural Observer, Code Gamma 79. Override authorized," Arya responded. "Warning, actions taken under emergency protocols must be justified in full report to Central Command." "Acknowledged," Lyra replied. "Begin countermeasures against the Neo-Separatist weather manipulation. Priority 1, protect the human settlement while maintaining our cover." As their ship's systems engaged in a silent battle in the upper atmosphere, they continued to monitor the situation below. Sarah had made it back to her vehicle, but the roads were now treacherous with ice and snow. Their sensors showed other humans struggling as well, Mr. Jenkins trying to secure his bookstore against the wind, Maria coordinating with fellow hospital staff to prepare for potential emergencies, and Tom keeping his coffee shop open as a warm refuge for stranded travelers. "The Neo-Separatists don't understand," Lyra observed, working quickly at her hidden gifts. As the artificial storm raged over Pine Grove, a new variable entered the equation that neither Lyra nor Theo had anticipated. Their sensors detected another ship entering Earth's atmosphere, this one bearing the distinct energy signature of the Galactic Archaeological Corps. Incoming transmission, Arya announced, as a familiar face materialized on their holographic display. Dr. Zena Val, the foremost expert on ancient civilizations, her bioluminescent skin casting a soft purple glow across her features, looked at them with an expression of urgent concern. Chief Observer Kyan, I apologize for the intrusion, but we've detected Neo-Separatist activity in your sector. I believe they're after something far more significant than simple interference. Lyra's crystalline form flickered with surprise. What could they want in Pine Grove? Our research suggests that this region contains artifacts from an ancient alien civilization, one that visited Earth millennia ago. These artifacts appear to have influenced many of Earth's winter celebrations, including what they now call Christmas. This revelation sent Theo's smoky form swirling in agitation. Are you suggesting that human holiday traditions have extraterrestrial origins? Not exactly, Dr. Val explained, sending them a data packet. Rather, it seems the ancient visitors were so moved by early human winter celebrations that they left behind devices meant to amplify the emotional resonance of these gatherings. We believe the Neo-Separatists are trying to locate and activate these devices. Meanwhile, below them, Sarah Chen was facing her own discoveries. Stranded at the community center with several other townspeople due to the dangerous weather, she found herself in an impromptu gathering of Pine Grove's residents. Mr. Jenkins had brought books from his store to entertain the children. Maria, who had been unable to reach the hospital for her shift, was checking on everyone's health. Tom had managed to salvage some coffee and hot chocolate supplies from his shop before the power went out. What caught the aliens' attention, however, was the peculiar energy reading emanating from beneath the community center, a faint but distinct signature that matched the specifications Dr. Val had sent them. The artifacts must be affecting them already, Theo observed, noting the unusual patterns in the humans' neural readings. Despite the crisis, their emotional states were showing remarkable resilience and unprecedented levels of interpersonal bonding. Sarah, sitting with Maya and her family who had also sought shelter at the center, was telling stories about Christmas traditions from around the world. Their sensors detected something extraordinary. As she spoke about different cultures' celebrations, the energy signature beneath the building pulsed in harmony with the humans' emotional responses. Look at these readings, Lyra directed Theo's attention to their monitors. The artifacts aren't controlling their emotions, they're amplifying what's already there, the capacity for joy, generosity, and connection. Dr. Val's voice came through their comm system again. The Neo-Separatists will have detected this energy signature as well. They don't understand the delicate balance these artifacts maintain. If they try to activate them fully, they could overwhelm the humans' neural networks. Above Pine Grove, the battle for atmospheric control continued. The Neo-Separatist ship had begun generating electromagnetic pulses, attempting to knock out what remained of the town's infrastructure. Lyra and Theo's countermeasures were keeping the worst at bay, but they couldn't maintain this effort indefinitely. In the community center, something unexpected was happening. As the storm raged outside, the stranded residents of Pine Grove began sharing their own holiday memories and traditions. Mrs. Patel, who ran the local pharmacy, taught everyone how to make paper lanterns like those used in Diwali. Mr. Rosenberg shared stories of Hanukkah celebrations from his childhood. The Rodriguez family taught everyone a traditional Mexican Christmas song. With each shared story, each moment of connection, the energy readings from the buried artifacts grew stronger, but in a controlled, harmonious way that their instruments suggested was their intended purpose. The artifacts, Dr. Val explained, analyzing the data they sent her, seemed to be designed to create a feedback loop of positive emotional energy. The more genuine connection and joy the humans share, the more stable the artifact's output becomes. This revelation gave Lyra an idea. If we could help the humans strengthen these natural connections, it might counteract whatever the Neo-Separatists are planning. But how can we do that without revealing ourselves? Theo asked, his form condensing with concentration. Before they could formulate a plan, their sensors detected movement from the Neo-Separatist ship. A small team was attempting to land under the cover of the storm, likely heading for the artifact's location. Sarah, meanwhile, had noticed something strange. Despite the power being out, there was a soft, barely perceptible glow coming from beneath the floorboards of the community center's old stage. Maya, with a child's natural curiosity, was the first to point it out. "Miss Chen, look. The floor is glowing like starlight." The aliens watched tensely as Sarah and several others investigated the phenomenon. Their scans showed that the Neo-Separatist team was less than 10 minutes away from the building. "We need to make a decision," Lyra declared. "If we don't act, the Neo-Separatists will force their way in and expose everything. But if we intervene..." Dr. Val's voice carried a note of wisdom earned from centuries of studying ancient civilizations. Sometimes, the best way to protect a species' natural development is to help them discover things on their own terms. Taking this advice to heart, Lyra initiated a carefully calculated plan. Using their ship's energy manipulation capabilities, they began enhancing the artifact's natural illumination, just enough to draw attention to what was already there, but not so much as to seem supernatural. Sarah and the others had discovered a hidden trapdoor beneath the stage. As they carefully opened it, their flashlights revealed a small chamber that looked like it had been sealed for centuries. The walls were covered in strange, swirling patterns that seemed to catch and reflect light in impossible ways. "It looks like stars and snowflakes all mixed together," Maya whispered in awe. The Neo-Separatists were now at the building's entrance, their advanced scanning equipment detecting the artifact's energy signature. But they hadn't counted on finding dozens of humans gathered around their target. What happened next would become part of Pine Grove's legend, though few would ever know the full truth. As the Neo-Separatists attempted to enter the building, disguised as emergency workers, they found themselves faced with something their advanced technology hadn't prepared them for: the simple, unshakable solidarity of a community united by circumstance and celebration. Tom was the first to question their story. "Emergency workers? Funny, my brother's on the emergency response team, and he didn't mention any special units being called in." Maria, with her medical experience, quickly noticed discrepancies in their equipment. "That's not standard issue for any emergency service I know." The Neo-Separatists hadn't counted on human perceptiveness, nor on the strength of local knowledge and community bonds. As they tried to push their way toward the stage, they found their path blocked by Mr. Jenkins and several others who had formed a casual but unmovable barrier. "Folks around here tend to know each other," Mr. Jenkins said mildly, but with steel in his voice. "And you don't seem like folks we know." What the Neo-Separatists couldn't understand, and what Lyra and Theo were documenting with fascination, was that the artifacts beneath the community center were working exactly as their ancient creators had intended. They weren't weapons or tools of control, but rather instruments of enhancement, designed to strengthen the natural human capacity for community, joy, and mutual protection. The energy readings showed something remarkable: the more the townspeople united in their subtle resistance to the intruders, the more stable and harmonious the artifact's output became. It was creating a feedback loop of positive energy that seemed to strengthen the humans' natural instincts for cooperation and protection. Sarah, standing near the hidden chamber with Maya's hand in hers, felt something she couldn't quite explain: a warmth that had nothing to do with temperature, a sense of connection that went beyond the physical. Around her, she could see the same feeling reflected in the faces of her neighbors and friends. The Neo-Separatists, facing this unexpected resistance and clearly detecting the artifact's stabilizing effect on their readings, had no choice but to retreat. Their plan had relied on chaos and desperation, but they found instead a community made stronger by adversity. As they withdrew, Lyra, Theo, and Dr. Val worked quickly to help nature take its course. The artificial storm began to abate, though enough snow had fallen naturally to ensure Pine Grove would still have its white Christmas. Power was gradually restored, though the evening spent in darkness had created bonds that electric lights couldn't dim. The hidden chamber was carefully documented by local historians, though strangely, all their photographs would come out slightly blurred, showing only beautiful but indistinct patterns of light and shadow. The town would eventually create a small museum display about the Christmas Star Chamber, but its true nature would remain a mystery. What wouldn't remain a mystery, however, was the change that came over Pine Grove that night. The community had faced something together, even if they didn't quite know what it was, and had emerged stronger. The ancient artifacts, working as intended, had helped amplify something that was already there, the human capacity for connection, celebration, and mutual care. Sarah, looking around at the impromptu holiday party that had sprung up once the emergency workers left, realized something important. The family she had been missing, the traditions she had been trying to recreate, they weren't just about blood relations or childhood memories. They were about creating new bonds, strengthening community ties, and finding joy in unexpected places. Maya tugged at her hand, pointing to where the strange lights still played faintly beneath the stage. "Miss Chen, do you think it's Christmas magic?" Sarah smiled, feeling the warmth of community around her. "You know what, Maya? I think the real magic isn't in those lights. It's in how we all came together tonight." From their ship above, Lyra and Theo made careful notes about how humans, when faced with adversity, had an extraordinary capacity to form bonds and protect what they valued. The Neo-Separatists had failed to understand something fundamental about Earth's winter celebrations. They weren't about external forces or supernatural intervention, but about the very human magic of people coming together to create light in the darkness. Dr. Val, preparing to depart with her team, left them with one final observation: perhaps these ancient visitors didn't leave these artifacts to guide humans, but because they themselves were guided by what they witnessed in human celebrations. Sometimes the most advanced civilization is the one that knows how to preserve and protect the simple magic of connection. As Christmas Eve approached, Pine Grove had a story it would tell for generations, about a strange storm, a hidden chamber of lights, and most importantly, about how a community came together to create something wonderful in the midst of chaos. And while they would never know about the alien observers who had helped protect their celebration, the real magic they had created needed no extraterrestrial explanation. It was, after all, simply Christmas, with all the very human magic that entailed. Echoes of wonder. Christmas Eve morning dawned over Pine Grove with an ethereal quality that even Lyra and Theo's sophisticated sensors struggled to quantify. The aftermath of the previous night's events had left more than just fresh snow on the ground. It had created subtle ripples in the fabric of the community that their instruments detected as unprecedented patterns of neural synchronization among the townspeople. "These readings are remarkable," Dr. Val commented from her ship, which remained cloaked in high orbit. "The ancient artifact's activation seems to have created a lasting resonance in the humans' electromagnetic fields. It's not controlling them, but rather, enhancing their natural capacity for connection." Meanwhile, in the newly established Neo-Separatist containment zone far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the radical faction's leadership was facing an unexpected crisis of their own. Their failed attempt to seize control of the artifacts had triggered an automatic transmission to their homeworld, one that contained not just their defeat, but also the remarkable data about how the humans had naturally activated the ancient technology through their genuine emotional connections. Back in Pine Grove, Sarah Chen woke early, her mind still processing the events of the previous night. The strange lights beneath the community center had made headlines in the local paper, but what really captured her attention were the dozens of messages on her phone, townspeople coordinating to ensure everyone would have somewhere to be for Christmas, sharing resources, and planning impromptu celebrations. Lyra and Theo observed with fascination as new patterns of interaction emerged across the town. Their sensors detected something unprecedented. The neural resonance from the artifacts had somehow attuned the townspeople to each other's emotional states in subtle ways their science couldn't fully explain. At the hospital, Maria discovered she could anticipate which patients needed comfort before they called for assistance. Tom at the coffee shop found himself preparing people's favorite drinks just moments before they walked in the door. Mr. Jenkins seemed to know exactly which book to recommend to each person who entered his store, as if he could read their minds, though the alien scans showed it was more about enhanced empathy than actual telepathy. "The artifacts aren't creating these connections," Dr. Val explained, analyzing the data. They're simply making visible what was always there, the invisible threads that bind human communities together. But it was Sarah who demonstrated the most intriguing effects. As she prepared for the elementary school's Christmas concert, which had been rescheduled for that afternoon after the previous night's disruption, she found herself experiencing what she could only describe as echoes of joy. Every time one of her students mastered a difficult part of their performance, she felt their satisfaction as if it were her own. The aliens watched in fascination as Sarah began to understand and use this new awareness. When Maya struggled with stage fright during the final rehearsal, Sarah didn't just offer words of encouragement, she somehow managed to share her own confidence and calm with the young girl, creating a feedback loop of positive emotion that their instruments detected as synchronized neural patterns. "There's something else," Theo noted, his smoky form shifting with excitement. The artifacts seem to be responding to the children's emotions in particular. Their natural capacity for wonder and belief is creating harmonic resonances we've never seen before. Indeed, as the afternoon concert approached, their sensors detected growing waves of anticipation and joy emanating from the school auditorium. Parents, grandparents, and community members filled the seats, many of whom had been together during the previous night's strange events. The shared experience had broken down traditional social barriers, creating new connections that showed up on the alien scanners as intricate webs of neural synchronicity. But it wasn't just the artifact's influence that was changing things. Sarah and her students had prepared a surprise. They had rewritten some of their songs to include verses about the previous night's experience, celebrating not the mysterious lights themselves, but the way the community had come together. The aliens observed as the children sang about friendship, unity, and the magic of helping others, their pure emotions creating peaks in the artifact's energy readings. Dr. Val's research team made an astounding discovery during the concert. The artifacts, she reported, are actually learning from the humans. They're not just amplifying emotions anymore, they're creating a template of human connection that could revolutionize our understanding of community dynamics across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Lyra had been monitoring communications from their homeworld. The Neo-Separatists' failure had sparked intense debate in the Galactic Council about the nature of civilization and progress. The data from Pine Grove was challenging some of their most basic assumptions about the development of sentient species. "Look at this," she called to Theo, highlighting a neural pattern analysis. "When the children sing about hope and giving, their emotional signatures match frequencies our scientists once thought were only possible in highly evolved beings. But they're achieving it naturally, through something as simple as a holiday celebration." The concert's finale brought an unexpected moment that none of their instruments could have predicted. As Maya stepped forward for her solo, a song about finding light in darkness, something extraordinary happened. The residual energy from the artifacts beneath the community center seemed to respond to her voice, creating a subtle but visible aurora of colors around the auditorium that most attendees would later attribute to clever lighting effects. But it wasn't just a light show. Their sensors detected a cascade of neurochemical responses throughout the audience, a wave of pure joy and wonder that spread from person to person, creating a moment of perfect emotional harmony that even Dr. Val, with all her centuries of research, had never seen before. Sarah, watching from the side of the stage, felt tears in her eyes as she realized something profound. The magic they had discovered wasn't in the mysterious lights or the hidden chamber, it was in the way these experiences had reminded everyone of their capacity to care for each other, to create joy together, to be a true community. As the concert ended and families began to gather for various Christmas Eve celebrations, Lyra and Theo detected something unexpected. The Neo-Separatist ship had sent one final transmission before departing the solar system, a message that would change their civilization's approach to developing worlds forever. "We were wrong," the transmission read. "True advancement isn't about technological superiority or guided evolution. It's about preserving and protecting a species' capacity for natural wonder, connection, and growth. The humans haven't just survived our interference, they've shown us a better way." Dr. Val's team began preparing to leave Earth's orbit, but not before sharing one last piece of information with Lyra and Theo. The artifacts, she explained, were never meant to be activated by advanced technology. According to our latest translations of the ancient records, they were designed to respond to genuine human emotion, particularly the unique neural patterns generated by their winter celebrations. The ancient visitors didn't leave them as tools to guide humanity, they left them as monuments to humanity's capacity for joy and connection. That evening, as Christmas Eve celebrations began across Pine Grove, the aliens observed something remarkable. Without any artificial enhancement, the townspeople were generating emotional resonances that matched the artifacts' frequencies perfectly. Children's laughter, shared meals, small acts of kindness, each created ripples of positive energy that their instruments detected as pure harmonious patterns. Sarah hosted her planned Christmas Eve dinner, but it had grown far beyond her original guest list. Her small home was filled with people who had been strangers just days ago but now felt like family. Maya and her parents brought traditional Mexican dishes. Mr. Jenkins arrived with books of Christmas stories from around the world. Maria came between hospital shifts, bringing homemade Filipino desserts. Tom supplied endless coffee and hot chocolate. As they shared food, stories, and laughter, the alien sensors detected something profound. The neural synchronization patterns were actually stronger than when the artifacts had been active, because now the connections were being generated purely through human interaction and emotion. "I think we're witnessing something unprecedented," Lyra noted in their official report. "The humans haven't just survived an attempt to manipulate their development, they've demonstrated that their natural capacity for connection and celebration is more powerful than any external intervention." As night fell over Pine Grove, the community had been transformed in subtle but significant ways. The mysterious lights beneath the community center had faded, but they had left behind something more valuable, a renewed appreciation for the connections that made their town special, and a deeper understanding of the real magic of the holiday season. The aliens watched as Sarah tucked a tired but happy Maya into the guest room bed, the child's family having decided to stay over rather than drive home late. The girl's last words before drifting off to sleep captured something essential about human nature that all their advanced technology couldn't fully measure. "Miss Chen," Maya whispered, "do you think the Christmas magic will last forever?" Sarah smiled, smoothing the child's hair. "You know what, Maya? I think the real magic isn't in any lights or strange glows. It's in how we choose to treat each other, how we come together, how we create joy even in dark times. And that kind of magic, that lasts as long as we keep believing in it and sharing it with others." From their ship above, Lyra and Theo made their final notes for the day, knowing that their last observation period, Christmas Day itself, would bring even more revelations about the remarkable species they were privileged to study. The Spirit Within. Christmas morning dawned over Pine Grove with a clarity that seemed almost supernatural. The storm's aftermath had left the town transformed, not just by the blanket of pristine snow, but by something deeper that Lyra and Theo's instruments detected as unprecedented levels of harmonious neural activity throughout the community. Final observation period commencing, Lyra noted in their log as the first rays of sunlight touched the town's snow-covered roofs. Earth date, December 25, time remaining until mission completion, 24 Earth hours. Dr. Val's ship had departed during the night, but not before sharing one final discovery about the ancient artifacts. They weren't just passive recording devices as originally thought, but rather sophisticated learning systems that had spent centuries studying human emotional patterns. The data they had gathered would revolutionize galactic understanding of community dynamics and emotional intelligence. In Sarah Chen's home, Christmas morning began earlier than expected. Maya and her family, who had stayed overnight after the Christmas Eve gathering, were awakened by an excited discovery. The little girl came running into the living room, still in her pajamas, pointing at something remarkable outside the window. The alien sensors detected it immediately, a subtle but distinctive aurora-like effect in the morning sky, creating patterns that resembled the northern lights but with an unusual crystalline quality. Their instruments confirmed it wasn't a natural phenomenon, nor was it caused by their technology or the ancient artifacts. Instead, It appeared to be generated by the collective emotional energy of the awakening town itself. The humans have learned to generate these effects on their own, Theo observed, his smoky form swirling with excitement. They've internalized the harmonic frequencies the artifacts showed them, and now their natural emotional states are creating similar phenomena. Sarah and her guests gathered at the window, watching the beautiful display. But what fascinated the alien observers even more was how the humans quickly moved from wonder at the light show to focus on something they clearly valued more, their connections with each other. The morning unfolded in ways that challenged even the aliens' advanced understanding of community dynamics. All across Pine Grove, people were reaching out to each other in ways that transcended traditional holiday obligations. Their sensors detected hundreds of small but significant acts of kindness, each creating ripples in the town's collective emotional field. Mr. Jenkins opened his bookstore not to sell anything, but to host an impromptu Christmas story time for children whose parents were working at the hospital. Maria, between her shifts, organized a delivery system to ensure every patient had a visitor and a small gift. Tom's coffee shop became a warm gathering place where people shared stories of past Christmases and created plans for future celebrations. But it was at the community center where the most remarkable events unfolded. Someone, their sensors indicated it was Sarah's idea, had organized an impromptu town-wide Christmas celebration. People brought whatever food they could share, whatever decorations they could spare, and most importantly, themselves. The ancient chamber beneath the stage, while no longer glowing with mysterious light, had taken on a new significance. The town had decided to preserve it as a symbol of community unity, though most didn't understand its true extraterrestrial nature. Children took turns peering into its depths, making wishes, and sharing dreams, each genuine emotion creating subtle ripples in the energy field that the aliens' instruments could detect. Look at these readings, Lyra directed Theo's attention to their neural pattern analysis. The humans are generating emotional resonances that match the artifact's frequencies perfectly, but they're doing it naturally, through nothing more than genuine connection and celebration. They observed as Sarah, standing near the chamber with Maya at her side, received an unexpected call. Their sensors detected her spike in emotional response before she even answered. It was her parents. But unlike previous conversations, this one was different. "We saw the news about the storm," her mother said, her voice carrying concern and something else, regret. "We've been thinking, maybe we've forgotten what really matters. Would it be too late to drive up? We could be there by afternoon." The aliens watched as Sarah processed this moment, their instruments detecting complex emotional patterns that spoke of hurt, hope, forgiveness, and possibility. "It's never too late," she replied, looking around at the community that had become her second family. "There's more than enough room for everyone here." As the day progressed, Lyra and Theo documented something unprecedented in their years of studying developing civilizations. The Neo-Separatists had tried to force human evolution through external intervention, but what they were witnessing was something far more remarkable: natural evolution through celebration, connection, and choice. They watched as Pine Grove transformed the community center into a Christmas wonderland. Children taught adults the songs they had learned for the concert. Adults shared traditions from their various cultural backgrounds. Teenagers set up a video call system so that people who couldn't attend in person could still be part of the celebration. When Sarah's parents finally arrived, the alien sensors detected something remarkable. The neural patterns of reconciliation and reunion created harmonics that precisely matched the frequencies the ancient artifacts had been designed to enhance. But now, the humans were creating these patterns entirely on their own. "I think we're beginning to understand," Lyra noted in their final report, "why the ancient visitors left these artifacts. Not to guide human development, but to remind future observers of something profound, that the capacity for wonder, joy, and connection isn't something that needs to be engineered. It simply needs to be recognized and protected." As evening approached, marking the end of their observation mission, they recorded one final scene. The community had gathered outside the center, holding candles in the growing darkness. Maya, standing between Sarah and her parents, began to sing the solo she had performed at the concert. Other voices joined in, creating a harmony that their instruments detected as a perfect match for the universal frequency of peace their scientists had theorized but never actually observed in nature. The sky above Pine Grove shimmered with that strange, beautiful aurora, not from any alien technology or ancient artifact, but from the pure emotional energy of a community that had discovered its own capacity for magic. Final mission log, Lyra recorded, her crystalline form pulsing with what their species recognized as profound understanding. We came to study how humans celebrate their winter festival, but we leave having learned something far more valuable. The true magic of Christmas isn't found in mysterious lights or ancient technology. It's in the human choice to create light in darkness, to forge connections across differences, to believe in possibility, and to share joy with others. Theo added his own observation. Perhaps this is why our ancestors chose not to directly interfere with Earth's development. They recognized that humans possessed something rare in the galaxy, the natural capacity to generate wonder, to create celebration from difficulty, and to transform simple traditions into profound connections. As their ship prepared to leave Earth's atmosphere, they received one final transmission from Dr. Val. Your mission has provided unprecedented insights into not just human development, but into the nature of civilization itself. The Neo-Separatists wanted to force human evolution, but Pine Grove has shown us that the most powerful advancement comes from within, from the simple choice to care for others, to celebrate together, and to believe in the magic of connection. In Pine Grove, as Christmas Day drew to a close, Sarah stood with Maya on the community center steps, watching the last traces of aurora fade from the sky. The ancient chamber beneath them had gone dark, but something brighter had taken its place, the light of genuine human connection, visible not in any supernatural display, but in the warm greetings, shared laughter, and small kindnesses that filled the town. Miss Chen, Maya asked, her voice carrying the pure wonder that had first attracted the alien observer's attention, do you think we'll ever know what really happened here? Sarah smiled, watching as her parents chatted with Tom and Maria, as Mr. Jenkins shared stories with new friends, as her community celebrated not just Christmas, but their connection to each other. I think we know the most important part, Maya. Sometimes the most magical things aren't the ones we can explain, but the ones we choose to create together. From high above, as their ship disappeared into the stars, Lyra and Theo made one final note in their mission log. The humans have a saying, that Christmas isn't about the presents, but about presence. Our mission has proved this to be more than just a pleasant phrase. It is, perhaps, one of the most profound truths we have encountered in all our studies of developing civilizations. The real magic isn't in the mysteries we observe, but in the connections we choose to create and nurture. And so, as night fell over Pine Grove, the alien observers departed with far more than just research data. They had witnessed something that would change their understanding of civilization itself, the simple yet profound magic of human hearts choosing to create light together in the darkness of winter, a magic more powerful than any technology, more lasting than any artifact, and more wonderful than any supernatural display. The true spirit of Christmas, they had discovered, wasn't something that needed to be brought to earth from the stars. It had been there all along, in the human capacity for wonder, joy, and connection, a light that would continue to shine long after the last traces of their visit had faded from the winter sky.